Get your rub on with Addicted to.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. So we'll start with introduce yourself and tell us your team name.
I am Jordan Kirkpatrick with Janky Leg BBQ out of Benton, Illinois.
So I have to ask this question. Where did the name come from? You can be as R-rated or PG as you want to be with it.
So I will not do that. So just so you're aware, at the Jack, I was pretty under the weather. I had gotten pretty sick throughout the cook, and everyone kind of gives me a hard time. I was asked how
that was my highlight of my Jack videos, was watching that one.
Yeah, a few people say that. So I was like, we had gotten a couple calls, so I was already stoked. The guy asked me how the team name come about, and truthfully, it is kind of a long, drawn out to do. And he had hit me with kind of like, we'll just make it short, or however he come about, and I was already kind of jacked up, and it may be a fault of mine, I don't know, but I cursed like a sailor, and that was about where it went. So as far as our team name went, we had started at a backyard competition I had bought, like I think the week of the competition, I had bought a homemade smoker, and it was for sure homemade, and it had golf cart tires on it. And long and short is basically we had got to the barbecue competition early that morning on a utility trailer with everything but the kitchen sink loaded up. And once we dropped the gate and went to give the old smoker a little shove off the trailer, sounded like a shotgun went off, and the front wheel snapped off of it, and there went the smoker. And after a little finagling and trying to get it back upright and somewhat level, it was pretty rough, and we got through the day. But yeah, we ended up getting a call at that comp, and I kind of got bit by the bug. And on the way home, our utility trailer, one of the tires had snapped a belt, so the trailer was bouncing all over the place, and it was just a disaster, if I'm being honest. And once we got home, my wife was like, "What about?" We had another name, and she's like, "What about Janky Leg?" Because the whole day, in our area, Janky is considered, kind of trashy or in rough condition, and I was calling that smoker everything under the sun, just a janky POS and all this other stuff. Yeah, so when we got home, that wheel had literally completely snapped off, so it was gone. Like it was kind of held a little bit with a weld we were at the comp, but once we got it strapped down and it rode that whole way home, that tire was just laying under the smoker. So it only had 3 wheels, and she's like, "What about Janky Leg?" And it just kind of stuck.
That's the best team name. I always kind of wondered that whenever I first started following you guys on Facebook, and then you posted a picture of like your first competition and like how the smoker was sitting. I'm like, that makes sense as to why you're Janky Leg BBQ.
You'd be surprised. Most people think because I'm a big boy or something, I got a bad leg. Something. I'm like, that's really not the case. But I mean, they can run with whatever they like. But that's how the team name come about.
That's the best story. So, do you have any teammates, or do you cook alone?
No, I cook. It's me and my wife and our son Hayes, and then our other son Landon. Our one son is 3. Our other son is 17. So the oldest is, I can't even say he's part time. He is. He just comes and goes. Kind of. Sometimes he's a figment of our imagination. And then a buddy of ours, Aaron Thomas, his nickname is Teen Wolf, and that's pretty much who everyone knows him as. He's cooked with us from the start, and it's most of the time it's me and Allie and Hayes and Teen Wolf go. But this year, I think I cooked 3 comps by myself, or 4, maybe 4 comps by myself. But yeah, it's a joint effort.
That you got your 17-year-old. He's a teenager. They just show up whenever they feel like or disappear? Or
He beats his own drum, that's for sure.
so, if you could team up with anybody to cook a competition, who would it be?
That that is really a tough question for me because I could list 15 teams, you know. I mean, just off the top of my head, I could go with Bill Hine with Triple H, Chris Schaefer, really good friends of mine, Jason Addis and Brandon Scott with Jabs. I mean, heck, you could shoot off, the big shots. I'd love to cook a comp with Joe Pierce or Tim Shear, Brad Leininger. But honestly, there's a couple guys that it would make my day. One would be Brad Cox and Jocelyn Cox with Local Yokels. Brad has probably been one of the most influential people as far as just helping me from the jump. One of the nicest people in barbecue, no question. He's a guy that cooks, maybe 10 comps a year, but he's always consistent. I mean, we were just at the World Invitational, and I told everybody, he's a guy that can roll in, and not a whole lot of people may know who he is, or most do, though. He's a guy that could just roll in and knock a GC down without even hesitation. And we cook pretty similar, he moved over to cans, but we've worked together and shared info constantly over the years. And he's one of my best friends, and if I was to cook one, he would definitely be one. And then another would be Pat Burke. He doesn't cook competition barbecue anymore, but he was one of the founders of Apple City Barbecue, and he's one of the he's probably the number one person I look up to in barbecue. He's just a great guy. But yeah, I'd say if I was to team up with another team, all the people that I mentioned, but I'd say my top three would probably be Brad Cox, Bill with Triple H, or Pat Burke.
There's that Local Yokels team you always hear almost every year at the Royal seem like get their name called. I mean,
so I'll tell you,
every year.
On top of him being a great cook, here's what I will tell you. If there's anyone to friend in barbecue, it's him, because great cook, great guy, great family. I mean, our kids are really good friends and hang out at the comps all together all the time. But he and his wife are excellent cooks, and they will straight up serve you a meal at barbecue comps. If you're lucky enough to try some of their food, they're amazing cooks.
So I think you almost just answered that. Who was one of your biggest mentors?
So, yeah. So I kind of, without getting too lengthy on it, when I very first started in barbecue, a friend of mine, and he was actually my boss. I'm in the car business, and his name's Brian Yates. He was kind of the guy who was the man as far as at our dealership as far as barbecue goes. He would, not like anyone, he just, kind of smoked in his backyard all the time. And we started hanging out, swimming in his pool on the weekends, and he would kind of show me just different things in barbecue. And then once we really got started into it and we did a comp, I met a guy named Dylan Lipe, who's a really good friend of mine now, and he's cooked Pro KCBS and MBN, and he's a chef, and he really gave me a lot of direction. But once we got into barbecue, I was actually at Memphis in May, and I had never cooked a comp, so this kind of dates back. I'd never cooked a comp, but I was studying barbecue like crazy, and we were walking around Memphis in May, just kind of seeing the teams, and I had, like I told you, I'd studied barbecue, and I had actually watched Pat Burke get nominated into the Barbecue Hall of Fame. And he is from Murfreesboro, Illinois, which is about 40 minutes from my house. So he was just sitting in this chair there at Memphis in May, like really not talking to anybody. Just him and another guy was sitting there, and we're walking, and I walked past a couple times, and we had been drinking, and I'm like, I'm telling you, that is Pat Burke, you know. And my wife, she's like, well, go say something. I'm like, I've been drinking. I'm not trying to bother him. She's like, well, I'll go say something. I'm like, yeah, don't do that. So next thing you know, she's over there talking to him. And, Pat opened us up. Just, it's kind of hard to even explain. He asked if we had walked around and met anyone there at Memphis in May. And we were like, yeah, we've talked to people, but we don't want to bother anybody. And you know how it is. You start out in barbecue and you feel almost like these guys are larger than life, and it's like you don't want to bother them, and you also don't want to be a nuisance, but you still want to say something.
Yep.
And come on. So he just got up and he's like, let's go. So he took us around. Like Myron Mixon had, he had red rope all around his area, and he was doing an interview. And Pat, I'm like, hey, we haven't spoke to him. There's people all over. He's like, we'll just stand here. Myron was doing an interview with a lady there from the news broadcast there locally, and as soon as he saw Pat, he cut the interview off, comes over and hugs Pat, and Pat introduces us, and I've never even cooked a barbecue competition. Pat's like, this is my friend Jordan. He's gonna be somebody in barbecue. I just know it. He's got I just listened to him. I mean, it just meant everything to us. And after Myron, he took us and met Tuffy Stone, Chris Lilly. You name it. He introduced us to everybody. And, Pat is just one of those guys. Like, you talk about why you get into barbecue and why you stick with barbecue and why it's important to you. I don't know how many comps we've done, 80-something. And Pat Burke calls me every single Saturday or Sunday, still to this day, and asks me how we did or congratulates me or says, hey, you just missed the boat or what happened. And, that just goes a long way. That's the type of guy he is. So I would say as far as influences and things like that, Pat is hard to beat.
Yeah, Murfreesboro. I used to live in Marion when I lived in Illinois, so I'm familiar with that.
So I'm in Benton. I'm just 20 miles.
I used to take mining classes in Benton back in the when
Yeah.
I was. So yeah.
Yep.
Small world.
Yeah, for sure.
So, what is the one thing you love most about competition barbecue?
Everyone says people. People is what makes anything you do worthwhile. But I'm competitive. I enjoy to see the improvement. Kind of where you started to where you progress. And competition barbecue, it allows. I spend every weekend with my family. My 3-year-old son has seen more stuff in his 3 years of life than I probably did in 16 years of life. He's been all over the place. Me and Allie love to do it. We've met some of the best people in the world through barbecue. And just we enjoy cooking and we enjoy just kind of getting out there and doing it.
So what's the biggest obstacle for you, like to do? Because you guys do a lot of like 40 a year.
Well, this year, we did, I don't even know, 38, maybe 36, 37, something like that. This is the first year we've went this hard. Last year, I think we did upper 20s probably.
Because my biggest obstacle is always trying to get off work on a Friday. Because all those competitions usually set up on Fridays, and that's been the hardest part, getting the time off work.
Yeah, and that would be a big deal. I'm a business owner and fortunate enough to be able to take that time. Through the week, it's kind of an ordeal because you think about it. We have good people that work for us, but we go home on Sunday, and I'm already starting to think about the week. So really, my week is that Sunday through Thursday,
Yep.
So I'm trying to put car deals. I can't tell you the number of times I am, either wrapping ribs or getting ready to box something, and I'm trying to put a car deal together, or I was telling, hey, Allie, message this person or go back to this one, constantly trying to put a car deal together. And that's the thing about car business, most people most people know what they want. So if they're messaging you, hey, this is the details I want to work out, and if you can find that for them, it's pretty easy to put a car deal together through text or quick phone call.
Yep. That's the worst thing about running the business too. Then you're never off duty.
Right. Well, yeah. Yep. There's highs and lows and everything, I think.
So if you had to pick the biggest competition you've cooked, which one would it be?
We've cooked the Royal a couple times. We've cooked a couple big comps. This year we were lucky enough to get a draw in for the Jack. So not like anybody, that the Jack is it's an experience like none other. I would say probably the Jack, just in terms of kind of nostalgia, I guess you would say.
It's on my bucket list to just cook it once. Just to even make it would be phenomenal.
Yeah, it was cool.
So well, I think you just answered this. If you had to pick between the American Royal or the Jack, which one was better?
Which one was better or which one was more fun?
Well, either or.
So they're both great comps. I tend to, so I don't normally drink at barbecue competitions because I'm kind of an all-in guy. If I plan on starting to drink, I want to see it through. So I don't drink during barbecue comps. But at the Royal on Thursday night, I like to let my hair down a little bit. So the Royal is a good time for me. But they're both great comps.
So I've judged the Royal like maybe 4, 3 years. And this year I finally realized that the Royal is like a family reunion that the barbecue competition breaks out at.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody gets there on Wednesday or Thursday, and it's like a whole 5-day festival of who's who in the barbecue world.
Well, you just get to see a lot of friends you don't see often. Sometimes it's hard to, like in our area, we cook in Kansas City area a lot, or over here, Illinois, Indiana area a lot, Tennessee. You got to think, man, there's 40 plus states where people are coming from that you don't really travel to all the time. So it's nice to get to see those people. And that's what I like about the Royal, on you get there on Wednesday, and then Thursday, you just, those couple days before you have to get serious, you get to just kind of hang out and catch up.
So what got you started in competition barbecue?
Well, like I said, I was, I've always been a pretty decent cook. I really didn't know anything about smoking meat. And that's why I was telling you, my buddy in the car business, we worked together, and on the weekends, Sundays predominantly was our day off. And we just kind of started cooking together, and he showed me a lot of stuff really that I never knew. And we had just kind of cooked, I don't know, probably a month and a half, just every weekend. And we were bringing it into the dealership. And I mean, we were both like, this is the greatest food ever, knocking people's socks off at work, and they thought we were great. And, then obviously reality check whenever we went into actual people that knew how to really smoke some meat. But yeah, I mean, just me and him doing that. And once we did that backyard comp, and about like anything, that first call is gonna pretty much cost you down the road. It's an investment that you didn't even realize you were getting ready to make.
So what year did you start competing?
So we started our first KCBS in 2018.
So what advice do you have for any up and coming barbecue cooks wanting to get into competitions?
I would say just get out there and do it, do some research in the beginning, especially now. I mean, you have so many avenues. The barbecue league is probably the number one competition barbecue website to get into. I mean, I've said it many a times. You could pay your $100 fee, for the year. You could go in, you could follow their timelines to a T. You could follow their recipes, every category. You can go out and cook a comp, and hey, if you could practice enough, you could get in there and really figure out how to move forward and just kind of really figure out how to do it. I mean, you could have a lot of success moving forward just alone in barbecue league. But whenever, like I told you, whenever I started, I mean, I can't tell you the number of times I was supposed to be selling a car and I was sitting there watching How to Barbecue Right. I could tell you more times than not, Malcolm Reed was my best friend. Hell, I never even knew him. Yeah. But I went there, I went to YouTube. I met Tim Shear the very first time at a barbecue competition. Strictly, I had watched his pork trim video. I was trimming pork at a competition. Lo and behold, he walks up, basically tells me I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, so yeah, maybe YouTube sometimes doesn't help you as much as you would think. It was crazy because I had watched that video, never put two and two together who it necessarily was. And then once I met him and he was teaching me how to trim pork, then he was talking about Blues Hog products like he didn't own the place. And come to find out, I watched him walk to his trailer and he had Blues Hogs tattooed all over the trailer. I'm like, yeah. But yeah, I mean, just do your research. And if you get into it, I mean, like you said, if you go to a comp, heck, you can go become a judge first. Go judge a couple comps, see what kind of you're looking for. I would say don't set yourself up for failure. I mean, a lot of people just say jump in, start doing it. I agree with that to an extent, but I think that you need to try to set the foundation for yourself to be somewhat successful. It's a learning curve for sure, but the barbecue league cuts a lot of that down. And then just like anybody would say, there's a heck of a lot of teams out there doing classes. If you were willing to invest in yourself and, spend $700, whatever it is, go get one of those and kind of go from there.
Yeah, because otherwise you'll spend a lot of money trying to figure out what the judges are looking for.
Yeah.
Because what I cook and what most people cook in their backyard is not what competition barbecue is.
Well, I always said it like this, I practice nonstop, and it's about like shooting 1,000 free throws blindfolded. You're out there shooting and practicing, but you have no idea what you're shooting for. You don't even know what you're hitting.
Nope. So what smokers do you cook on at home and in comps?
In comps, I cook on an Outlaw pit, an offset, and then I also use a Gateway drum. At home, I use pretty much everything. I cook on a Weber kettle. We use a pellet grill. We have an Outlaw here that we cook on. We cook on our drum here. Pretty much anything that, sometimes you don't want to let a pit come up to temp, and I want to be lazy. You just start the pellet grill and move on. But we use a little bit of everything. We have a ton of grills about like anybody else, but good old Weber kettle is hard to beat.
Yes, it is. I still throw mine out every now and then. Mine
is right out my back door.
So, what advice? No, I think I already said that. Any tips or tricks you would be willing to share?
What do you want to know?
Not the keys to the kingdom. I don't even. As far as just barbecue in general, if you could give advice to somebody just starting, not even barbecuing yet, to not do, or a mistake you made when you first started cooking, let's go that route. I know what mine would be.
Don't think that your food is super great from the jump. It's easy for us all to be like, oh, this is amazing, or everyone has confidence in themselves, but hell, 90% of us were over smoking it.
That was my biggest thing, is I thought that if it wasn't pouring smoke out the exhaust, that it wasn't good food.
If I wasn't confident eyes were watering when I was opening the smoker door. I wasn't right.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think that's the biggest difference, for me, especially now. If I eat barbecue, if we happen to go out or if we go to a friend's house and they have barbecue, if I eat barbecue that has dirty smoke on it, I am in a bad way for the next day or two.
Yep.
I just think that you get accustomed to, once you've tried barbecue that has been cooked properly, I think you get accustomed to the light, smoky flavor. Too much of anything is not a great thing.
Yeah, I love going to a restaurant and then for the next day or two, just feeling like you get barbecue indigestion from all the smoke.
Yeah.
So, do you cook thighs or legs for competition?
I cook thighs.
Legs are getting popular, but it's still pretty about half and half, it seems like. Or
I don't have enough confidence to make the switch. I complain every week whenever I'm trimming chicken thighs, but we get it. We have it down to a pretty good process, and I still think that if you cook a chicken thigh properly, it's hard to beat.
yes, it is. We actually had some wings too with the Royal. Those were pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which I
Yep.
think Triple H I saw where they turned in some wings with their thighs.
Yeah, I think he's been cooking some quite a bit, so at the Jack you have to turn in both meats when it comes to chicken. And we'd cooked Murfreesboro, so I had never practiced a chicken wing. And I was like, well, I was calling all my friends. I was like, I've got to get ready for the Jack. I have no idea. What kind of timeline am I running? Am I running similar to my thigh? I was like, I just started cooking again. I was like, I have no clue. But we ended up cooking Murfreesboro. We did the wing competition there, and we finished third. And so then we cooked the Jack, and I was the whole time I'm like, I've never boxed thighs and wings together. So I was looking on all my buddies' pages where they've posted boxes. I looked on the Jack's Facebook page, and I had seen where everybody did kind of the crisscross of 6 wings and then 6 thighs on the. So I had all this in my head that this was going to work out perfectly, and we get everything done, and I'm getting ready to start boxing it, and I've got my thighs on the outside of the box. And I tried getting 6 wings in there, and it was not going to happen. No way, no how. I got 4 in there, and I was so flustered. I pulled all of them out, and I'm standing there looking at Allie and Team Wolf, and I'm like, I am so pissed right now trying to get this figured out. So I was like, screw it. We're putting 3 wings in there, and I'm going to make it look good. And I remember I put the 3 wings in, and I was like, well, damn, that box actually does look pretty good. Took a picture of it. Looked it over real good, closed the box up. After we got everything turned in, until awards, I wasn't feeling great, but I just kept saying, those 3 wings just screwed us. I'm telling you, we needed to have 6 and 6 in there. And the whole way, they get to the top 3 in chicken. And I'm just like shaking my head. And Allie's like, what is your problem? I'm like, we should have put 6 wings in that freaking box, And they call us first place wing or first place chicken there, and I freaked out. And as we walked off, Allie's like, "Well, I guess 3 wings didn't hurt us," but
Nope.
they did not. But I was sure nervous that they were going to.
So you don't have to put white and dark. You only have to put one piece of the other. It doesn't matter. You don't have to do 6 and
7,
6.
from my understanding, it's you just have to have 7 portions. But in my head, I know the judges aren't supposed to do that, but my thought process is if you put 6 thighs and 1 wing, I just feel like that's, I don't know. Maybe I'm just in my own head. But I do know a friend of mine got a call there, and he did it. He did 6 and 1, and he got a top 10 call on chicken there.
I don't know. Just as a judge, I would think that would be weird. Just like, does one of them get 2 pieces of meat, and then the other, like, how does that? I don't know.
Not necessarily. I guess if everyone wants to take one, heck, everyone may have just wanted a thigh, left the chicken wing in there. Or the one person got a wing. If your wings were bad, I guess it would be a smart move to stick 1 wing in there. At least your drop score was the bad one. If all your thighs, your legs were good.
Yep. That's definitely interesting. So do you have to do 7 pieces of everything?
Yes,
Ribs,
sir.
everything? Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because Jack Daniels was number 7. Okay.
Yes.
So, what is your favorite meat to cook, and which one is your least favorite?
I like to cook pork. I like getting in there and getting into the different muscles. I guess I probably should say I like chicken. That's probably what we score the best with. But I enjoy pork quite a bit. Um, for some reason, my ribs haven't. I don't know. I just feel like I'm all over the place with ribs. So right now, I would say that ribs are probably my least favorite. First part of the year, brisket was my least favorite because I'd either do really well or really bad, and it was costing me comps. And I feel like we kind of got that figured out. So I think this season I'm probably going to focus on the off season. Probably focus the most on ribs.
You were I think, the king of third place finishes this year, weren't you?
I was.
I don't remember how many you had, but it seemed like every week, every other week, you post your results, and it was third place overall. Third place overall.
You, it's kind of a shitty deal to say, "Oh man, I'm upset I got third," and you hate to be that way, but sometimes you're just like, "Can I catch a break?" You know. And knock on wood, towards the end of the season, we started to catch breaks, but yeah, we had a lot of thirds. I got to sit on my hands a lot and get called third place, and then watch some of my best friends walk past me and get the grand championship trophy. And you know, I think a movie one time said, "Why can't you be like the rest of my friends and talk shit behind my back?" I would always tell my buddy when he'd come back, Bill Hine. I would
Yeah.
always came back and like, "You asshole." Like, and he'd always say the same thing. "Sorry, buddy." I'm like, "You ain't. I'm sorry. You just beat the brakes off me yet again, and I get to sit here and cheer you on as you smile for your grand champion photo."
Third place, that's what I got at a contest last year. And it's a weird feeling because you're happy you got third, but you're pissed off that you didn't finish better. It's when I left, I said I've never been happy and pissed off all at the same time.
I think we finished. I think we finished third place 9 times this year.
Wow.
It was fun.
But you had a pretty good what was that, Oak Grove that you won both days?
Yes. Yeah, we had a pretty strong finish. We went to Arkansas, and they had that big comp at that casino there, and we got fortunate and we granted that competition, and that was a big money comp.
Yes.
So we were pretty stoked there. And then we went to Oak Grove and cooked that double, and was fortunate enough to back GC that comp as well.
So you had a strong finish.
Yes. Yep.
So what is your favorite thing to cook if it's not for a competition?
I love chicken wings and I love pork steak.
Yeah, you're from the St. Louis area. That's always popular in that
Yes,
area.
it is. Yep. If not, I mean, if it's not on the grill, I love a good pasta. I'm a big fan of chili. I'm a meat and potatoes guy, you know. I like pretty much anything. Is I can't get too far out of the spectrum or I lose interest.
Yep. So have you cooked much pork steaks for ancillaries? I know some
No.
places. I did. It wasn't a sanctioned comp, but it had pork steak for a category, and I had to reach out to some St. Louis guys to tell me how to cook it because apparently I've been cooking it wrong until they told me how to cook it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of interesting, but that was a pretty fun. Like I love pork steaks too. That's probably one of my favorites. But
Yeah, you can do so many things with. I love pork steak. Pork steak with a big man, in the summertime with a big fresh tomato, it's 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 hard to beat.
yes, it is. So, do you have any rubs or sauces that you come up with?
No, I have a barbecue sauce that a couple of my buddies, I think they're just trying to make me feel all warm and fuzzy on the inside. I do have a barbecue sauce that I had sold a little bit here and there, you know, just kind of playing around with whenever I had first started, and it's a good barbecue sauce, but man, there's too many guys out there that perfect it. I thought about trying to maybe play around with a rub. I've made a couple and they were all right, but man, there's a lot of guys out there that have really done a good job. So why fix what's broke?
Yep.
If it's not broke, keep running it.
No, I've tinkered with it, but I'm not good enough to do it for a comp or anything. I just kind of do it if I'm cooking for people or here and there. I don't, like you said, too many people have perfected them.
Yeah, well, like I told you in the beginning, it's easy to be like, oh, my shit is so good. And that's how I would be. I'd make this rub and I'd be like, that is lights out. 5 of my buddies would try it and be like, Jordan, you were off the mark. This is not good. Throw it away. So I'm gonna save myself the heartache and just keep running with some of my buddies' stuff.
My thing is, how much money am I going to spend trying all these rubs that I try on something and then throw it away because it's terrible and I can't.
Yeah.
Like, I'll take one bite and be like, "Yep, this was not it."
Well, I've run a lot of stuff cooking, so I stay in the wheelhouse.
So, do you have any barbecue classes in your future that you're going to try to do?
I don't. Probably not. I don't think sell a barbecue class out, and there's still classes I'm gonna take.
Well, you're getting up there in the barbecue world.
Yeah, I mean, I still got a long way to go. Just there's a lot of things to learn. I'm about like anybody else, man. I'm trying to figure it out. I feel like you really have to do something to put on a barbecue class. Just personal opinion. I'm not knocking anybody who does a class, but in my opinion, I feel like you got to have some boot behind your name to really be successful with classes. And on top of that, I mean, once you put a class on, I feel like you have to be secure enough in yourself as a cook to be able to accept the fact that people that you taught start beating the brakes off you of it.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I am. I don't know that I would be. But in the same token, I think it would be cool if you were able to teach somebody and then you were able to watch their success down the road.
Yeah.
I've taken all of the majority of the top cooks classes, and a lot of them are my good friends. And it's cool to hear some of them be like, "Hey, man, I'm glad to know that I had part of your success." It's a pretty cool feeling whenever some of the top cooks in the country kind of recognize your hard work and how much you've put into it and kind of where you've come.
I think Tim Shear kind of said it best one time. It said it's kind of weird because when you start teaching barbecue classes, you almost have to turn into more of like a teacher and be happier when your students. It's almost like your curve kind of changes to where you become more like less competitive for yourself and hoping that they do just as well because you had a hand in their success.
I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, it's about like anything you do. I mean, in any profession, once you have somebody work next to you, and especially as a manager of a company, I ran a company for a long time, and when you promote people up, your goal is for them to hopefully be able to do better than what you do. So, I know a lot of managers out there who were always worried someone was going to steal their job. At the end of the day, you have to be secure enough that you're a hard enough worker and you do your job right, where the people you bring up just help you flourish,
My best manager I had when I worked in the coal mines, his quote he used every day was, "If I leave or something happens to me, I want this place to not miss a beat."
Sure.
And he was probably one of the best bosses I ever had.
Mm-hmm.
And he truly did that. And that's what, like you said, you want your students to do well and everything else. So Yeah, classes are definitely, you definitely have to give the keys to the kingdom. So like you said, you got to be secured enough to know that you may get beat.
Yeah, I mean, because it happens. I mean, and that's the thing. It's not to say that any student that takes somebody's class and they start having success, you don't know as much as what the people who taught you do. And, for anyone to ever think that, I think they're off the beaten path. But I mean, because you got to think, I mean, people like Joe Pierce, Brad Leiniger, Tim Shear, Schaefer, I mean, Steve Hayden, 1-2 Barbecue. I've taken all their classes, and those guys have forgot more about competitive barbecue than I probably will ever know.
Yeah.
It's the little things. I remember, like Steve Hayden, I could not cook pork to save my life 2 years ago. Like, it was so bad. I could never figure it out. And I remember I had taken a money muscle over to his at a comp, and I was, like I said, I was still new. I had taken his class, and I'm like, I cannot figure this out. I'm doing everything that you told me to do. I don't know why this ain't working. And I remember I would set it on his trailer, and I did this a couple comps. He would just take a bite. He'd be like, you didn't go long enough, or you went too far, or you didn't spritz it enough. And I would just be like, I'd go back and I'd sit at my trailer like, how in the hell does he know this? And he was right. Once I started getting the hang of how to actually cook pork and do well, everything he said made sense.
Yep. That's crazy though that he could just tell by taking a bite of it. He knew exactly what texture it was supposed to have.
That guy can cook pork like nobody's business. I mean, there's a reason that everyone in barbecue knows that he is the man when it comes to pork.
So here's a heavy question. If there was one thing about competitions or KCBS that you would like to change, what would it be?
There a couple things, I guess. One, there's a lot of competitions stopping. They're quitting. I mean, they're just a couple of them this year. Some of our favorites, like Effingham, Illinois. I mean, they probably have the most prestigious trophies, in my opinion. The Butcher Block, and they're not doing a comp this year, and that's Allie's hometown. That's only an hour from us, and it's one of our favorite competitions. And they're not. They've decided to call it quits, and I think some of that has to do with the number of cooks or teams that are competing, and I know it's tough because there's comps every weekend that people are battling with and things like that, but yes, I guess really the teams are just kind of maybe slowing down or times are tough right now. There's no doubt about that. Money's tight, fuel's high, meat's high, everything's high, and all we want to do, all these cooks just want to cook, but it's tough. I would say that just getting more people involved. The more the sport of barbecue grows, the more events can happen, the more involvement from organizers and reps, can take off. And then the other side, is it's in everything that you deal with. Politics are in a bit of everything. And I feel like sometimes in barbecue, I think things just get kind of taken too far. I think politics have a place, and in my opinion, just my view, I don't think KCBS or any organization when it comes to barbecue really needs to have that much politics in it. It's just kind of the bickering back and forth among. I kind of, man, I just want to barbecue. Kind of the way I see it. I just want to cook comps, try to win.
Do you think lowering the price point would help get more competitors?
I think if you lower the price point, of entry fees, I don't know if the organizer would be able to do the payouts. I know that it would be cool to only have $175 entry fee or whatever it might be. But you got to think, if you have 30 teams and you're missing $100, that's a chunk of change.
Oh yeah.
You just missed out on $3,000. Um, so it's like it almost has to be a happy medium, and I don't know what that is.
KCBS is throwing around the 2 meets master series. I don't know if that's ever going to take off. Or
I don't know. I mean, I think some of that is cool, but I feel like the challenge of competitive barbecue is cooking all 4 meats. And I can appreciate, and I've seen a lot and talked to a lot of backyard teams. I'm like, man, I don't want to buy a brisket every week. I don't blame them. Hell, I don't want to either. But I think that I think that if we can get more people involved in barbecue, and I think that to do that, I think there has to be more involvement at the comps. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm a people person. I like to talk to people. I like to meet new people. I think that it would be cool if you could have some type of community involvement. I've done a couple of the People's Choice, but really you don't meet the people. You cook your barbecue, you put your pork in a pan, and you hand it to the rep. Then it's the rep's job. Then you have, the community tasting the People's Choice and all that, but really it's still being judged among tokens or however they're doing it. I think it would be cool, if there was a way to bring in a team or or somebody, up there to maybe showcase some of their skills. Do you know how many people that come to a barbecue comp would think it would be awesome to see a couple can cooks out there showing them what happens, burn and turn on the pork, or offset guys showing in the fire and heck, box meat. Maybe they're not involved in the comp, and I don't know. Like I said, I'm literally just spitballing here, but I don't know what the answer is to get that to happen. But I think that some of these people that come to these comps, they want to see what competition barbecue is. They don't want to see a bunch of people running in and out of a barbecue trailer. And if these people are trying to talk to us at 12:20, us going, hey, we don't really have time to BS right now. I've got to get in here. I got to get these ribs done or whatever it might be. I think that it would be cool if the community could somehow see what we do.
yes, it seems like so many comps you go to, that like the festival is completely separate from the barbecue competition.
Yeah.
So it's like a barbie. There's no public interaction hardly, unless the judges walk around before they judge, and that's about it.
I went to one in Sheridan, Arkansas, and I thought that was pretty cool. They allowed some of the teams to vend after turn-ins. So I was cleaning up, and I did not sign up for that, because there was a lot of local teams there that were trying to sell sauces and they were trying to promote their business. And I'm from Illinois. I mean, what do I really have to gain to try to profit off of that? It wouldn't make much sense.
Yeah.
But there was a couple teams right next to me, and there was just long lines. And my dad had cooked that comp with me, and he's never been to a comp. And he was actually just kind of standing out there helping me. And I can't tell you the number of people that come up and they're like, man, can I see your pit? The tires on your smoker are cool. Can I look in it? Man, can I see your trailer? Do you have any food I can try? Is there a way I can get it? So we're like, hey, here it is, whatever. And, they're like, what is this? And a lot of people have never had a Wagyu brisket, so they don't really know what the texture is here. They really don't know the velvety texture of what a pork, like a money muscle, should be. So they're kind of freaking out because they're just used to shredded pork. And I think whenever just standing on the porch of my trailer, I'm explaining to this guy and his wife what a money muscle is, and they're just like, no kidding. It's almost like they're overwhelmed hearing what the different muscle in a pork butt is. And I don't know. I just think that if somehow we could showcase that at a comp, maybe even after after brisket. I know people are want to get out of there, but maybe for an hour after or whatever it might be, I don't know. But maybe if after brisket turn in, people could do a walk around and maybe try. I mean, the majority of people don't really care to eat the barbecue after they cook a comp. And if you had a little bit left over, do you know how easy it would be to throw some in a little cup or whatever it might be, or a little boat and hand them out?
Yep. Yeah, I like you said, I don't know what the answer is. I just know something's got to change.
No, my luck, someone will be like, all right, Jordan, you're going to do this now. This is what you're going to do. And then I'm going to wish I kept my mouth shut. But, I mean, I think it would be cool. I think we did a World Foods event in Tennessee, and that was like the first time I had done, like, you had to do a people's choice. I was out there selling barbecue like I was a car, I was throwing everything but the sun at these people, and they were eating it up. You talk a little bit of shit to people and make them laugh. I mean, that's really what barbecue's about. You think about it, you've got some of the best shit talkers in the country cooking next to each other, and especially if they're decent friends, they're mouthing each other 90% of the competition anyway.
Yep.
I don't know.
So what does the future look like for your team? Is there anything you still want to accomplish?
Oh, yeah. There's a bunch I want to accomplish. It would be nice. For this year, we have 3 bungs in for the jack already. So we've got 3 grands. It would sure be nice if there was any way we could pull it off to auto into the jack. That's since I started barbecue, that I never thought that would be an attainable goal. And we got kind of a jump start on it, and unless I stub my toe, it would sure be nice to try to pull through on that one.
Yep.
And then, there's just a lot of room for growth all the way around. We would love to just kind of see how it goes. Like I told you before the show, the last month of barbecue, even though we were having success, I was pretty much over it. I was tired. You're just kind of mentally drained, physically drained. But then again, I'm done with barbecue now, and we were talking, and you're like, I'm going to cook in March, and that's what I plan on cooking too. I don't plan on cooking another comp until March, but I'm sure, there's a comp this weekend coming up, the Atlanta Barbecue Store Classic, and I'm not going to be there. And as much as I say that I don't want to be there, I'm pretty confident I'll probably be watching awards whenever they come on.
Yep.
It's about like anything. I love barbecue. I love barbecue as much as I love anything. And when we're not doing it, I'm going to miss it.
I always say it's the one sport where a big guy like me can actually do something.
I am a self-proclaimed stationary athlete.
Yes.
If you want to set shot basketball, play pool, I'm a pretty good ping pong player. I do home run derby. Just don't make me shoot off a dribble. We'll be all right.
Yep. Anything that involves running or walking, I'm not. No.
I will hold, because I know that you're watching. I have beat my wife in a foot race, I think 2 or 3 times. I tell her I'm like a steam engine. Once I get rolling, look out.
Well, you have anything else to add before I let you go for the night? Thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. It was a good time.
I just want to give a shout out to our sponsor, King Louie's Meat Apostle. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.